Hey guys, welcome to a very special episode of Reflections with Reyes. Today I will discuss with you the root causations of criminalization through the origin stories of the main villain of the Marvel Universe, Thanos. We're going to dig deep and find out exactly how he came to be the mass murderer he is, and how even the simplest of crime prevention strategies could have stopped him from killing, half of the Marvel Universe. You're going to want to stay tuned. But first, I need a coffee. So I'll see y'all in 10 seconds. Ah, that's more like it. First off, if you don't know who Thanos is, then maybe you've been sleeping under a rock for the last, 10 years and have never watched an Avenger movie, ever. Because when you think of villains, he's up there with Darth Vader, Joker, Lex Luthor. He's one of very few people to, complete his mission of killing half of the universe, half of the Marvel Universe. Yeah, true story. But if you rewind just a little bit, he wasn't always like that. Actually, believe it or not, Thanos as a teen was a pacifist. Yeah, as a teen, he was a pacifist. He was pro-life, he was anti-kill, and he was so pro-life that he couldn't even dissect a lab lizard for one of his science classes. It literally grossed him out. The thought of him taking another creature's life grossed him out. It grossed him out so much that he ran out of class and puked all over himself. And it's just funny how that is, considering the way, he turned out to be. But if we take it back, back, when I say back, I mean all the way back to birth. Right at birth, some of his social determinants of health was already affected. Right from birth, Thanos experienced discrimination for the color of his skin, his mutation, and the way he looks. The worst part is that his own mother was the first person to discriminate him. She took one look at him and saw pure evil. So what does she do? She grabs a scalpel and tries to kill him. She's then sedated by her husband and then thrown into a mental asylum for the rest of her life. Thanos, growing up in his adolescent years, he was pretty much a loner because he was discriminated against for the way he looks, his mutation, the color of his skin. He was socially excluded from social groups, the community, and pretty much his peers. But like I said earlier, he grew up a pacifist, so all of this didn't let him bother him. He just minded his own business and went about his day. Did he experience intersectionality? Not really, as intersectionality deals with overlapping, intersecting social identities such as education, religion, gender, class, sexuality. He was just discriminated against. It took some time, but his peers eventually came around. Thanos made friends and was finally socially accepted. He even showed interest in the girl that comforted him after he couldn't dissect the lizard, telling him that it will only get easier the more you do it. This girl was known as Lady Death, and she would play a huge role in his psychological behavior. A major turning point in Thanos' life was when him and his friends decided to go to a cave, and they got stuck there. After being stuck in the cave, Thanos again became a social outcast. He was the one to blame for all of the deaths of his friends after they were eaten by lizards. And in his ear was no one other than Lady Death, telling him if you love them and you miss them, you will take revenge for them. This was the first time that Thanos tasted blood, and his hunger grew from here. He would forever be changed. Since then, experimenting on creatures was like second nature to him. But he still couldn't find the answers that he needed. Again, with Lady Death persuading him, this led to the first ever murder on Titan. Thanos literally invented murder on his home planet, and he didn't stop there. A bit of a spoiler alert here, Lady Death doesn't exist. The only person that can see her is Thanos, and he thinks that the more he kills, the more that she's going to love him. Thanos felt to get the answers that he desired, he would need to get it from his mother. He's had this recurring dream since he was a kid about a person killing her at birth. He pieced it together and figured out that it was her, and by killing her, that in his head that he would feel complete. But that was far from the truth. So, origins of Thanos. Yeah, not the happiest of stories. I suggest if you're gonna read it, I would call your mother afterwards, call your parents afterwards, and just give them a shout, tell them that you love them. Just the little things. Now, as sad as the story of Thanos is, we actually got a lot of information, and all of that information can be applied to determining the root causes of criminalization. Let's take, for example, the WHO model, the domains of risk. What is that, you ask? I'll tell you. The domains of risk is a crime prevention model developed by the World Health Organization. Its main purpose is to determine whether a person will commit an act of crime or violence. Essentially, what they're saying here is that there are four major socio-economical spheres that are affected by risk every day, and the more risk that we encounter within each sphere, the more likely an individual will fall victim to criminal activity or victimization. By identifying these risk factors at each level, they are better able to design and implement crime prevention programs targeted to reduce risk. So let's go back and apply this model to our good old friend Thanos and see how much risk were affected in each of his socio-economic spheres. Let's take the first sphere. Were risk affected in his individual sphere? Absolutely. He definitely had a history of violence from a young age, tracing back to slaughtering a cave full of lizards, to committing the first murder on Titan, to killing his mother, among many others. Not to mention his psychological problems. He had mental issues talking to and falling in love with a person he could only see. What about relationship factors? I think poor parenting is a bit of an understatement, considering that his mom tried to kill him at birth. I didn't touch much on the father, but let's just say he wasn't really around and he didn't pay much attention to him. If we skip over to societal risk, we can safely say that he was a social outcast from the very beginning and excluded from all social groups within his community and peers. Right from birth, he experienced discrimination because of his mutation, the color of his skin, and just overall the way he looks. Now, if we go back and take a look at community risk, there weren't really any. Titan as a planet was extremely rich in resources. It experienced no poverty, there was no drug trade, and no crimes. Well, I mean, no crimes in the sense until Thanos showed up. If we take a look at our model now, we can clearly see that Thanos experienced high risk in 3 out of his 4 spheres. So, are we really surprised that he turned out the way he did? Looking back onto community risk, we can actually expose one gigantic flaw that needs to be touched upon, because it could have saved billions of lives. There is one underlying problem though. On the planet of Titan, there was no such thing as murderers, there's no such thing as crime, there's no such thing as policing, there's no need for it. So what does that tell you? It tells you that there's no crime prevention strategies. There's no plans to be put into place if something were to happen. And that's a big deal. There's no policing, there's no police. It was a time before the Avengers. The Avengers weren't even born. By the way, leave in the comments your favorite Avenger and I'll send you a gift. One neighborhood-based crime prevention strategy could have been even implementing something like Unlock. What's Unlock? Unlock stands for United Neighbors Levers of Change, and it's Ottawa-based. Unlock is a crime prevention program through social and community development. It focuses on increasing safety and decreasing crime in the area. Unlock's mission statement is as follows. This project collectively develops solutions and acts to address mental health and addictions, street-level drug dealing, home takeovers, and related violence, with the focus on creating caring communities and increasing community safety and collaboration. So why do community-based crime prevention work? Community development seeks to empower people. It emphasizes self-help, mutual support, and a sense of safety within the community. Research has shown that community-based approaches to crime prevention can have a greater impact on criminal behavior than enforcement alone. By taking joint action, there is much greater potential for long-term, sustainable solutions. Can you imagine for just a split second that if the planet of Titan had just a single crime prevention strategy through social and community development, a program like Unlock, that maybe, just maybe, that Thanos could have got the help that he needed, the help that he deserved. I mean, it would have addressed his mental health issues. It could have got him the proper help through social workers, through a psychiatrist. He could have been prescribed medication, and just someone in general to talk to and be like, hey man, listen, this lady death girl that you're talking about, she doesn't exist, man. I hate to tell you this, but yeah, you need help. And not only that, it could have changed his life. It could have put him up in a foster home that had loving parents to teach him life values. He could have been part of a community that empowered each other, not discriminate. A loving community that showed each other mutual support for one another and genuine concern for everyone's safety. And who knows, maybe this single program could have saved half of the Marvel Universe. I mean, just a food for thought. Hey guys, as usual, thanks for watching. And if you haven't done it already, please hit that like and subscribe button. And better yet, give me an A.